Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I wanted to talk to you about this twin flame situation that you hear online a lot. So let's jump in. First, I wanted to go over the 13 signs you have met your twin flame. Well, what is a twin flame? Is a situation where it's deeper than a soulmate, and it's supposed to be somebody who can mirror you back the way you need to be mirrored, exactly what you are, instead of what everybody else shows you. Because that's kind of what got you caught up in the problems that became who you are in your fruition now, or currently, right? Or in your current, I should say. So when you meet this twin flame, this could be a rough situation because they're bringing to light things that you need to work on. And if you work on these things, then you will be just an amazing person. Now, I'm telling you about this because I'm going over everything on this channel that has to deal with narcissism. And this comes up a lot. So whether or not you like it or I like it, I'm going over it just for the education purposes of it. So bear with me, because I think there's some deceptions here. But basically, they will mirror you back to yourself the way you truly are and the things that you need to work on. And of course, there's going to be tension going back and forth during that relationship. Then you break apart, and then you start, you kind of tell yourself what they told you was full of crap. Later on, as you dwell on the past, it starts to make sense to you. So then you go in and you do the work. The whole idea is you're supposed to get back together with this individual and live a great life. So that's what the twin flame is. To where the soulmate is a little bit different. This twin flame is much deeper of a connection. It's like the deepest. And apparently you're supposed to get one of these. If you do, you get one of these in a lifetime. They're kind of individuals that can't hide themselves from you. You can just see everything about them. And when you hold back, it's usually in the very beginning, and it's usually because you feel like you don't want to hurt their feelings. But you kind of know all about them from the jump, y'all. So it's really weird. And when I reflect back, my last one was this situation. I just don't think that they're probably good for you. I think it's just more of a deception on something built around narcissism and giving it a twisted name. So I wanted to jump into this because it also can be sent to you in relation to what they call karmic, but it doesn't have to. It can just be a true connection, not relation to karmic. Or it could start out as a karmic, but then as you heal, it becomes a full-on perfect relationship, and you're supposed to be this emperor and empress, or you're supposed to be this power couple that has the ability to ebb and flow through everything in life and be a strong couple in the end. And they call you kind of like you're two unicorns. They'll never meet another you again. You'll never meet another them again. This is how the narrative goes. That's kind of how it works. So there's like 13 signs in relation to this twin flame. And the first one is you notice the red flags from the very beginning. So from the jump, you're noticing that things are feeling off. Your stomach or your chest may drop and you just feel weird about the whole situation. Your intuition's strong. You're getting hunches through your emotions, but it's not completely aligned. That kind of makes you think of the narcissistic relationship during the love bomb phase, where they love bomb you, and then you get the red flags, but they're getting run over, you see? So you're getting hunches, but they're being run over. Sign number 2 is you spend a lot of time justifying their behavior. So that's exactly what a narcissist would be like as well. They don't really respect your friends. They don't really respect your alone time. And it's easier for an outsider to realize these situations because they're away from the situation, and they may know you, may not know you, maybe a friend of yours, but they can see from afar, and seeing from afar outside of the emotions of the whole thing can tell doesn't seem like it's a good situation. But this is supposed to start out as somewhat of a karmic type partnership relationship. So that's number two. Number three is there's a problem with selfishness. So again, reminds you of the narcissist. You have to put this other person's needs ahead of yours all the time. They can never do right by you. And you're always fixing these situations for them. You're always supplying for them. And in the case of you, it's kind of like you're not loving yourself and you're allowing this. So on your side, you're not advancing in life because you're allowing these situations to continually occur into your life. And for them, the way that they're acting with their entitlement, with their selfishness, and their abuse, that's why you justify their behavior on point number two. Point number three is the selfishness. Point number four, you're constantly fighting and can't come to a resolution. So just like the narcissist, you're going to fight. They're going to probably start the fight because they are always creating chaos. So you're trying to come to an understanding, and come to an understanding would be after a while when you're arguing, you're almost like, I don't even know where this started, because the narcissist will make it a big runaround circle to nowhere. And so if you take the time and ask them to stop for a minute and let's get to the bottom of this, to root it out, they'll rage at you or ghost you, one or the other, but it's going to stop right there because there is no root to it. When you get to the bottom line of the issue, you're going to find that it was their problem and it wasn't yours. And they're not going to allow that to happen because that would be a narcissist injury. So they either take off or rage out on you until you leave it alone. And that's how it happens. And you never get any resolution. I was married to a narcissist for almost 10 years. And I don't think in the whole 10 years there was any advancement in our relationship because of that. There was never a resolution to anything that we dealt with, that we argued about. And at some point, you just give up. You give up on having faith that you can go anywhere or do anything because you're more focused on just avoiding bad situations on a day-to-day basis because it's so draining. Number five, you're constantly on the defensive. So again, you can't ever walk around like you're wearing the pants, because you're never wearing the pants. Whether you're a male or a female, if you're the empath, you never get any kind of control, or never get a mouthpiece or a place that you can speak, your free will. And that's what they don't give you. You're in a world of free will, but you give your free will to the narcissist to control you. So all your power is through consent, and you consent to giving everything up. You're, like I said, a unicorn. You're a very powerful individual, but in the wrong hands and with the wrong boundaries, you will find yourself completely dismantled by a narcissist because you didn't love yourself enough. So number six, you can't help but snoop. So again, you're not a person that snoops. You just like to be with somebody. Generally speaking, you want to be with somebody you can trust, but this individual is so untrustworthy and they throw it in your face so often, and they hold their cards so tight to their chest, and their face is a poker face all the time. They give you no information, to the point to where you kind of find yourself snooping. Or you break up before you start snooping because you don't even want to go there. Number seven, you never feel completely at home or settled in the relationship because it's always chaotic. It's always chaotic, y'all. There's no peace. And without any peace, you can't rest your head. And they're always running around. They're always doing stupid stuff. They're always cheating on you, lying, and being promiscuous, and then having jealousy issues. They're trying to compete with you and to sabotage you. And then they're out there smearing your name and running smear campaigns on you. Even when you're still with them, you haven't broken up yet. They still start these things early, y'all. They're always backbiting about you. Number eight, you're not sure if you're in an abusive situation. Again, the narcissist, you are always defending them or rationalizing or in an illusion state of mind, trying to protect them because you love them. But with that, you're not conscious of the abuse that's going on, or you're not dealing with things on a level-headed manner. So when things become abusive, you kind of make excuses for it. And it's sad, but that's what's true. Number nine, you never feel like you can completely and totally be yourself. So of course not. With a narcissist, and this is supposed to be your twin flame, y'all. So with a narcissist, you're going to be never yourself. You have to always give in to the illusion, the fantasy, the mask, the false self. That's the deal. That's the covenant that in the contract and the consent that you made. That's the false self. That's the ego. So you can never be yourself. You just have to accept their projections, accept their abuse, accept that they're always right and you're always wrong, accept that they're going to wear the pants and you're not, that you don't want to slight them, that you don't want to cause any trouble or any waves. You just want to make them comfortable. And when you do that, and you're also in fear because they may threaten you financially or you smear your name or whatever, you also are walking on eggshells with all these rules that they put on you and all this isolation. You get paranoid, you get depressed, you get in a state to where you've been gaslit so much that you don't even have any security that you're making right decisions. So you have to look to them for validation and all your answers. You're second guessing yourself like 20 times before you do something. And then you end up being clumsy because of all of this stress and all of these things you're trying to do, when naturally you wouldn't have these issues with a normal individual in a normal relationship. Number 10, you just feel like crap for being with them. So you're with them every day and you feel like crap. There's not much else to say because you don't know what to expect. It can collapse at any moment. It's abusive and you never get any rest, never any peace. And you can't make this miserable individual happy. There's nothing you can do. It's just a crazy situation because it's bad when you have a love partner and you can't ever get them out of being miserable. And or just the idea of thinking that they're cheating on you or talking to other people behind your back and you know this is happening and you're trying to deny it or something because it hurts so bad and you don't want to believe it. The fact of the matter is that's the truth. Number 11, and then you feel like crap being without them. So this is the trauma bond, right? The trauma bond, you know, when you're not with them, you need to hit and you need their validation and you need their company. As soon as you get their company, they outside of the first 6 to 24 hours, you start getting belittled and demoralized and devalued already. And then you feel like that the crap for being with them, the crap for being without them. Number 12, you and your partner tend to have addictive behaviors. So again, that's the trauma bond with the endocrine system, the hot and the cold, repeatedly. It causes you to get high off the dopamine hits and then get heavily depressed off the cortisol when they're devaluing you. So they give you the carrot, you chew on that, and that's the dopamine, and then they hit you with the stick, and that's the cortisol. But you get hit with the stick more than you ever get handed the carrot. 13, this is the final one, they bring out the worst in you, okay? And they bring out the worst in you because you've been dealing with it for so long, you're draining all your energy, all your fuel, all your blessings, your identity is going to them, their identity is starting to become you. And you're feeling like the narcissist because you have so much narcissistic energy getting projected onto you. You can't even fake being nice anymore if you wanted to. You're always trying to accommodate them, make sure they're comfortable because you care. But at some point, you can't do it anymore. So you start getting edgy and you start throwing it back at them, or you start getting edgy out and about, especially after discard because they threw all this narcissist. You look more like a narcissist than a narcissist would. So those are the 13 signs of a twin flame, y'all. And so all of this is supposed to happen, and then you're supposed to break up after several cycles, and then at some point it dawns on you that the abuse you went through, make corrections in your life because you weren't loving yourself enough, and you allowed somebody to control you. You enabled them. You allowed your emotions to control your mind, and you're giving yourself up to somebody who's not truthful. So there's a heavy dose of negative reaping to pay for that. And you lower your boundaries down to nothing. That's one of the most important things. Boundaries are there to protect you spiritually first, and mentally and psychologically and emotionally. But when you start giving up all your boundaries, then you're wide open. You can get hit with attacks of witchcraft and all kinds of stuff. So this twin flame it's interesting because this is the most connected feeling you may ever feel in your life. It's very energetic and you feel like you have known this person in another life, really. And it's crazy because you feel very, very connected to them. You can feel them sometimes if you're in the same building and they happen to drive to that building at a different time than you and come in the front doors or something. You can almost feel it. You can energetically know that they're around you, but they weren't before. They drove up to the building and you had no idea. A lot of times you feel a lot of their feelings when you're away from each other, especially when you're trauma bonded. But that's the scenario. I believe the twin flame is just another cover for the narcissist. But sometimes these individuals, when they do leave, these narcissists or whatever, these twin flame people, they will leave, and a lot of the stuff that you did mirror back to them does dawn on them. Even though they know they're perfect all the time, they know that's not true interiorly. And they know it's just a cover to protect their ego and a facade to protect their lifestyle to all these fake people that they're hanging out with every day that give them bad advice, right? Flying monkeys, family members, and these love partners, they're all enabling them. And this is the thing, these corrections that you are always telling them they needed to make change in their life, they don't care most of the time. But sometimes they do. They will sometimes start to make some changes, maybe not, I don't know. Because usually when you wake up to who you are, meaning the chosen source that breaks the generational curse, you were chosen to break the generational curse through all of the betrayal and the abuse. You usually end up parading around the narcissist at least long enough to wake them up to who they are. But a lot of times it's terrible, because if this was your true twin flame, man, that's a terrible situation, because it's weird because you feel like you know this person from another lifetime and you have a lot of heavy duty connections and synchronicities with them. And it's crazy. A lot of times these twin flame things, you break up and then there's supposed to be a chaser, and then the other one becomes the chaser of you or whatever down the road because you get sick of it and you're like, they're ridiculous and I don't want nothing to do with them. Well, when you start to do that, then they want you, you know. Anyway, but if this was your twin flame, I mean, this person, mine for instance, had 3 or 4 love partners that she has these like surface level relationships with that she would cheat on you all the time with. She still has them because they always have a backup. But I know this individual always has several backups. And then I used to think her father was the one that was controlling her and putting that firm grip over her life. But now I'm starting to believe it was her mother. But either way, her whole family's toxic. And they pamper and enable, but they also live in a form of codependency toward each other. And this will never get somebody to move out of the house or get away from detaching from the hip of their mother or their father. Whether you're a golden child or not, you shouldn't accept that because you want to better yourself. And that's what grows entitlement and codependency, because you never make any decisions for yourself. You get stuck not believing in yourself but also feeling the entitlement. So you need all these people around you and you have a hard time being by yourself for just minutes. And then you have to jump from situationship to situationship, and you're always cheating on everybody and keeping all these relationships going while you're lying to all of these so-called love partners that you're having these surface level relationships with. And a lot of promiscuous. They're promiscuous, very. Most people around them know it. And people that are just cordial with them know that they're very, very promiscuous, that they're thirsty. They're thirsty for validation and eager to have intercourse with just about anybody as long as they validate them. And that's a complete degradable situation, especially, I mean, I want to say especially for a woman, but either way, man or woman, nobody wants to be with that. And they use their bodies, males and females, to just manipulate. They'll have intercourse with somebody just to get over on them. Just to get over on somebody. They'll have intercourse with somebody's neighbor or best friend or their brother or sister. And there's just they have no boundaries. And like I said, a lot of times what they do is they end up, when they leave you, they have some sort of a karmic type individual that hits them up next, or they go back to because they're trauma bonded to them. And I kind of feel like that they have done you dirty, or they may be a borderline, or most covert narcissists. They usually can get trauma bonded with overt narcissists. And then they get financially burdened down and controlled themselves. And everything that they did to you, the witchcraft that they paid for to be put on you, is now getting reversed. And somebody is manipulating them. Now they're with their main partner, their main source of supply, they're fighting with every day. They don't have any intimate conversation or anything because there is no connection between two narcissists. And they're cold and controlling, and they have their hand on everything that they do, and they're jealous of them, so they control them like they have a GPS tracking device on them at all times. And they end up burdening them down, usually with financial burdens. And the situation with their family, their parents will burden them down with finances or something, and they will do things for them with the threat of, if you disengage with the family because you need to build boundaries, then they're going to disengage from doing whatever partnerships that they were doing for you. And then their family and friends, if they ever did decide to listen to some of the advice that you tried to give them, that they didn't listen to, then their friends and their relatives and their flying monkeys are going to always be telling them the opposite advice that they ever need to hear, because they're also narcissists, or not heavily narcissistic and codependent, everybody around them. So, and enablers. So what you get is people giving bad advice because they don't want the narcissist to grow. They don't want them to change any of their growth patterns, and they don't want any of their relationship circles to change, because then they they will feel bad and look bad and feel like they've been betrayed, and they can't have that. So they always give bad advice, and so they keep them down, and they usually slander you, the good one that was trying to give them good advice. And so they just stay in a circle of stasis to nowhere. They don't grow, they don't get anywhere most of the time. But sometimes they will have a collapse over this. Everything will fall apart. And sometimes God will divinely do it to try to help them. But a lot of times they don't even listen to that. The best thing that could happen to a narcissist is everything collapse on them, so that they can start to go inside and heal and become a better individual, at least, because they need to process a lot of these thoughts that, if they ever could get healing. I'm just saying, and some of them are avoidance that seem to be narcissists, but they're not. I don't know. But the twin flame situation and all this stuff is, in my opinion, just another factor of narcissism that's been painted a different title. But you do have this interesting connection that runs so deep, it's almost like you knew this individual in another lifetime. The other thing is, and then they always have an addiction, one or two addictions, like a sex addiction, and they may take, drugs, pills, or something, stuff to make them sleep or something like that, because they don't want to think. And so this is the deal. If they are dealing with drugs and alcohol on a level of addiction, heavy addiction, then they're going to be clouded up in their thinking. And if they're being supplied by somebody like their love partner or whatever, their situationship partner that is a narcissist, then they're going to be controlled through that. And they're also going to lose a lot of money to that, and they're going to be financially burdened down. And they're going to be wanting to move, but they can't move because they're codependent. And they can't deal with a change in a situation because they don't have any courage most of the time. So, but the deal is, if they aren't a narcissist, but they're addicted to drugs and alcohol, you can become almost a complete narcissist through the addiction. So there's times where you can be addicted, and then if you go get help, you can come off the addiction and kind of be a normal individual. But there's narcissists that are also addicts. And when they get help from the addiction, but then the narcissism is still underlying, and they're still a jerk. They're still a promiscuous, lying, jealous jerk. And, you can tell some of these things when they start to if they are getting some help for addiction, when they start to recover, they'll separate themselves from the other groups and say that their situation's different, showing entitlement, and that there's a difference between them and the whole group. That when they're starting to deal with having to get deep with their emotions in situations when they're in these groups, it'll be fake. So those are ways you would see, because they have entitlement and lack of empathy issues are two huge things. And so usually also a narcissist typically won't get help for addiction because a lot of times they feel like they can make better progress on their own. And they can do this program differently and recover on their own because they don't need help. And all of the pain and the hurt that they caused people in the past doesn't seem to affect them. So that's how you can kind of tell a little bit more about the difference between somebody that's a narcissist addict that gets recovery, or just an addict that acts as a narcissist while they're in the addiction state before they recover. So the best case is somebody who's addicted, but they're not a narcissist, and they're just a narcissist while they're in the heavy addiction. They act that way. They act almost exactly like a narcissist, so they can heal up pretty well, 100%, you know. But there's this song by Sammy, I think his name is, from years back, but it's called I Can't. And it's like he's talking about, it's like an R&B song, but he's talking about the situation like this with a narcissist. And it doesn't matter what you do, you can't make them happy, and you get to a point to where you can't do it anymore. And they get theirs, y'all. They get, I always say they get a collapse after you're gone at some point, because they get wrapped up in some stuff, man, that gets to where all the stuff they did to you, especially if you were the chosen source that broke the curse, they get havoc wreaked upon them for their negative reaping for all the stuff they've done to you. And it usually gets reversed. Usually their partner is putting witchcraft on them and controlling them, abusing them. They're usually gaslighting them, cheating on them, holding them down and isolating them, giving them financial issues and problems. They still deal with they tell you that they're divorced and stuff. You don't even know. They could still be married for all you know. And then you got the other narcissist that's controlling them, and they're probably married as well, but they just do what they do, you know. And they're cheating on them all the time and doing all this craziness. So they get theirs. You don't have to worry about that. And they get in a lot of financial issues. They usually make themselves sound like they're rich and well-to-do, and you're the bougie one, when they're the one that's playing bougie, and they ain't got a dime to their name. In fact, they're in such a major deficit. But all this stuff's covered up, man. And they don't tell you anything. And that's the thing. What causes problems in your life is no vulnerability and no trust, no loyalty, and all this cheating and lying and stealing. You can't live like that. And then you're around all these toxic individuals that keep you down unbeknownst to you. And they're always feeding you negative stuff. And you are so used to it, you're inclined to think that what they're telling you is true. And what the empath told you to do was the falsity. Like they're probably telling them break up, you know, when you guys broke up, that you were the player. When they were the player, they're the one going out there on all these dating sites and having promiscuity with all these people they don't even know, and thirsty and eager to do all this stuff. I mean, it's terrible, man. And then they become addicts. It's a big problem for them. And like I said, they end up selling themselves. And it takes like so much more money. For you to make $50,000, you get it for 50 grand, 50 grand. They have to almost make 150, 200 grand to get the 50 grand because of their negative energy that they're walking around with. They're in a negative reaping at all times, all the time, forever, because they never want to straighten out. They always project it on everybody else's issues. But I know mine's getting hers right now. They'll lie to you about where they live and who they're living with and who owns the place and if they're married or not. You have no idea. You have no idea their age, their true name, where they truly came from, what their true history is or was, or if their mother is here or in Africa, or if her father's here or in Africa. I mean, the craziness, whether they're rich or poor. I mean, you don't know it, nothing. Not a damn thing. By the time the relationship's over, you know nothing. And whatever you did know or you thought you knew was a lie. And you feel like you loved somebody. That's why they never want to reflect on anything, because they know they're a piece of shit, man. And that's just the way it is. Sorry, I'm cussing. Peace out. Thank you for watching. Love y'all. Till next time. Soldier up.